You're listening to Nightmare on Film Street. The current time is 6:66. Traffic is clear ahead from here to the afterlife, but it's hell outside. For the next hour, you're on Nightmare time. So, let's give a grave welcome to our hosts, John and Kim.
Hello again, fiends, and welcome to Nightmare on Film Street, horror for the casually obsessed. I'm Kim.
I'm John.
And this week, we are taking a little detour down our side street, Nightmare Alley, to chat with writer-director Robbie Banfitch and his upcoming film, The OUTWATERS.
Yeah, this was a big favorite of ours out of Panic Fest last year. We've basically just been waiting for the day that we could do an episode about this. If you've been following us at all on social media or on the website, I mean, heck, here on the podcast, I think we've talked about it more than once. It was, as found footage fans, this is like a huge new found footage release that you should absolutely put on your radar.
Yeah, this is an absolute mind melter of a film. If you like anything that's weird and, a little unexplained and really goes for it, The OUTWATERS is the movie. And I'm so happy we got to sit down with the director and chat about this movie. It was a very hard discussion to have because there's a lot about this movie that, one, you don't want spoiled, and two, you don't want answers for.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's cosmic horror in a sense. It proposes it raises questions that you just have to sort of experience. I feel like we're overselling this a little bit, but I mean, hey, if you saw Terrifier 2 in the movie theater last year, you've probably already seen the trailer for The OUTWATERS. I think they were playing that ahead of it. So you've probably already been looking forward to it if you saw the trailer. If not, I really encourage you to, well, I guess either go over to YouTube or just listen to the audio of it here in a few seconds, but it is a lot of people screaming.
So that's pretty much found footage in a nutshell, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I feel like I say this about every single movie. I really think you should try and see this in the theater if you can. I think every movie is better in the movie theater, but we have seen this twice now at home and at a theater. It is scary no matter where you watch it.
Oh, it's scary everywhere, but nothing beats when we first watched that in the theater. There's a lot of really jarring sound and ambience that can't be replicated at home. So
yeah.
I would totally recommend you immerse yourself in this movie by going to a theater, and it'll scare the pants off you, hopefully.
Yeah, anyway, here's the trailer for The OUTWATERS, and we'll be back in a minute with our conversation. Writer, director, and star, Robbie Banfitch.
Rob, please call me. I'm so worried about you and your brother. I haven't heard from you guys in days. I had a really bad dream. It was horrible. It was really, really sad. Please call me. I'm so worried. I love you. I love you.
What are you reporting? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Ma'am? Can you hear me?
Well, Robbie, thank you so much for joining us on the show today, man. I'm really excited to talk to you about The OUTWATERS.
Thanks.
This movie genuinely scared the shit out of me. Like, as a horror fan, I think it's rare to find a movie that actually scares you. Like, most of the time it's like, oh, this was an exhilarating sequence, but I've seen this twice now, and it really gets inside me.
Oh, I'm glad. I tried to make it scary. That was a goal, just to try to make it scary. So I'm glad that it scares some people.
So, like, as a found footage filmmaker, what are some of your own personal favorite found footage movies?
The original Blair Witch Project and
Yeah.
Willow Creek. Those are my two that I really like. I like plenty of other ones, but those are my two favorite. Oh, and there's a movie called Punishment Park from the 70s, which I guess technically it's not found footage, but it's all in camera, like a news crew, and then that's amazing. Complete
fun.
authentic feeling. So Punishment Park, check that out. Have you seen that?
No.
No, I don't think so.
You must.
What's it about? Like, obviously there's a news crew, but like, what's the story?
The government is taking people who are basically like anti-war or going against the government and gives them the option to go to jail for long periods of time without like a real trial, or they can spend, I think, like 2 days in Punishment Park, which is basically just set up for them to fail and get hunted by the military. I think it's the military. Yeah.
This sounds wild.
It's
Hunger Games-esque.
yeah, it's just one of the only found footage films that one of the only in-world camera films that feels 100% authentic to me. So it's amazing.
Our umbrella of found footage is very big. Like, if it's a mockumentary, found footage.
Yeah, like if we're pretending this is real, found footage.
It's the mockumentary, and it feels very. It almost feels found, but it is set up like a mockumentary. You have to see it.
I mean, yours, on the other hand, is very, like, textbook definition found footage. And I love how you break up the story, because it's essentially just like, we're the police, here are 3 memory cards, and you watch them raw, is at least how it's explained.
Yeah, Willow Creek used a rule that I tried to follow the best I could, which is all of the starts and stops would have had to have been made in camera. It has to feel unedited, so I tried to do that the best I could. I followed that rule, so every start and stop point has a logical. I would have pressed stop or not realized I pressed play or record, whatever.
And did you have like other guiding principles for how it should look? I know some people have like the smallest little things, like I don't want digital fuzz. Like if like a weird digital fuzz shows up, then like bam, I'm out. I hate it.
I hate fake digital effects.
Yeah.
Aside from there's a epilogue short which is comprised of restored footage from the camera that'll be available too at some point. That does have digital artifacts, but I had my friend who does digital like art and design work specifically work on that, so it felt like a new thing and not this kind of, what do you call it, cliche digital fuzz that we're used to. So there's no digital fuzz in the Outwaters. No fighting over everything, and I hate characters arguing and characters that seem like they hate each other in a found footage movie. Aside from the original Blair Witch Project, it all feels very like forced to me. So I wanted to keep it really slice of life. Just what would actually be filmed if I were on a road trip with my friends. Like we wouldn't necessarily film each other talking about our deepest, darkest problems. And, and so for better or worse, I think for better, there's not that like classic tension between the characters thing. I just wanted it to feel real.
Yeah, that almost feels too easy when all the characters are just fighting in all the scenes, and you're like, what does this bring to the overall tension?
Yeah, it's not my thing. I thought it was done beautifully in the original Blair Witch Project, but for the most part, no. So
yeah, no, the Blair Witch Project is an anomaly. When they're all like fighting because there's no cigarettes left, you're just like, oh, I feel this.
I feel that. I felt that. I'm quitting soon.
But I mean, yeah, like in the original Blair Witch Project, like they start out as friendly as they might, you know, like one of them is kind of a stranger, 2 of them are friends.
But that's a great dynamic. Like there are 2 people that are close. There's one that's kind of a hired guy, and he kicked that fucking map.
Yeah, I didn't want to have fights that are like, "What? How did you get us here?" You know,
yeah.
what I mean?
Why you still have the camera, man?
It's my brother and my friends. I like them. How about that?
that whole first memory card where it's basically just, I mean, like there's a bunch that goes on, but it's a lot of just like you guys hanging out and making your way out to the desert, and those are always Kim's favorite parts of
I love the beginning of found footage movies, because you're just like, I get to just hang out with some fun characters who are like gonna go on an adventure, and then shit goes sour and you're like, oh, that's what I paid for, I guess.
And I love ominous, omany doom things, so I put a lot of like that underneath everything, some family tensions like underneath everything, but I like the really slice of life stuff. Although I should say everything in it's like everything that is left in it to me is very important and has a purpose, so it's not just like I threw a bunch of shit at the wall and left it on the wall. Ew, visual. Everything in there, there's lots of little things to find and hopefully like that add to the what happens later. But yeah, so those are the principles: no fighting, no fake fuzz, start, record, and stop, because no one had a chance to edit the footage. Spoiler.
That's kind of what makes some of the stuff in the end of the movie even scarier. It's just like, oh, like we've been watching, you know, an hour of unedited stuff that they were shooting in the desert and just hanging out with each other in their apartments. So when you get to like the absolute insanity of the second half of the movie, you're like, oh shit, this is also unedited. Like no one put this together. It's really effective.
Thanks. No, and the other thing is I didn't want to make a found footage movie until I had an actual reason that felt organic for the character to keep recording, and in this case it was disorientation.
I think that's really great. Like, I don't want to necessarily spoil everything, but that's always, the hardest part to get over. I think the biggest hurdle for people who aren't inclined to watch found footage, they're just like, why are they still filming? And in yours, the first half, we're filming a music video. Like your character, Robbie, is a filmmaker. He's capturing, like, he's working on cinematography even when he's technically like off the clock, and they're not filming for the music video necessarily. But then when we hit that midpoint where everything kind of turns sour, it's almost like he keeps the camera because that's just an extra appendage that feels comfortable or feels normal. The camera's still on because that's a safe zone almost, and that's it's like magical. A
security blanket.
Mm-hmm.
The idea behind that was A, disorientated, and if that's a word, and then B, security blanket. You know, these things aren't real if I'm seeing them through a video thing, but mostly just disorientation.
Mm-hmm. And you're not 100% on like mental state at that point, so what's justified and what isn't, like the viewer doesn't have the place to say in all of that.
Yeah. And then for the first half, I just kind of went back to when I was in high school and middle school. I used to bring my camera to school. All like my friends from Bridgewater would know. I was filming all kinds of shit at the lunch table, and I filmed a fight between my two neighbors that they had over parking, and made a whole documentary about it in high school. So I'm not that obnoxious person that films their life anymore. That was all way back in high school, but I just tried to be like film the kinds of things I used to film when I did have my camera all the time. But it was also cringy. I was like filming so much stuff of me and my friends hanging out. I'm like, oh God, how do people film their lives all the time? It's like, oh, with those like selfie sticks, I can't.
Yeah, every once in a while I try to do TikTok, and then I'm just like, this isn't me. I don't like this.
Feels weird.
So how much of the movie that, like, just thinking, I wanted to ask how much of the movie was like 100% scripted and how much was, either improvised or found in the edit. But I think maybe you're, based on what you just said there, that like you had a really definitive plan for exactly what the movie would look like.
Yeah, and sometimes I think this is a good opportunity to clarify some things I've said before, or maybe just I just didn't speak well before. I didn't write a script, but it was all very much in my head specifically. Like I knew the scenes I wanted to get. I knew the shots. I knew all that stuff. I just didn't like write it down because I figure the stuff that sticks is strong enough. The stuff that sticks and I don't forget is strong enough to film. A lot of it was improvised within obvious, like, all right, this is what's happening in this scene generally. And at some point, make sure that you say this some way. But yeah.
Some stuff had to be serendipitous, right? Like, are the mules, like, did you plan for the mules?
Those are CGI. No. No, they were there. They were chilling. And I was in a grumpy mood, and I didn't feel like filming them because I was in a bad mood. And luckily, Scott, who is my brother in the movie, was like, "You have to film them." I was like, "Fine."
They're pretty magical.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, not wanting to film them. There were a lot of things like that I was like, "Oh, I don't want to film it." And then whoever I was with that day was like, "No, you have to do this."
What was the biggest like surprise thing that you were happy you grabbed when you sat down to edit it?
The bees actually swarming the tent that Ange and I were doing our one mild fight scene in. It was just like bees slowly started buzzing outside the tent, and we started seeing their shadows flit by, like, and then the chorus of bees started to get louder and louder, and like, we have to get this scene done and get out of here. I'm glad. I didn't know if there's like it would be captured visually, and but it was like you could start to see the bees flying and hear them. We came out of that tent and there was hundreds of, I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of bees all over the tent, all over the well, there wasn't really camera equipment, but all over our like camping gear. And we had to run to the car and go to a Denny's until it got dark to go back. Because luckily we didn't get stung, but if it's one of those things where if one of us would have gotten stung, then it would have been all of them started stinging us. And we were actually really far from hospitals or anything like that. Also the rattlesnake, like I had avoided rattlesnakes for 2 years while filming this, and then on the last shoot almost stepped on one. So that scene where there's a rattlesnake, when I'm like, is that that's all just me wondering if that's actually a rattlesnake.
Fuck.
So
I know. Like, I was
that.
thinking about that while we were watching it. I was like, I don't know if I'd get that close to a rattlesnake. This seems like a fucking mistake.
I'm like, maybe this is just like what desert people do. They're just like, oh, we're boho and we walk by rattlesnakes. It's cool.
There's some things that happen in the movie that I think some people are like, why would you? I mean, I don't feel this way, but some people are like, why would you stay? Or why would you do? But that's all modeled on me. Like there was when I went to Australia, I went to look for crocodiles. I like went walking around and when I found one, I put my foot in the water to try to get it to come closer. It was across so like that's kind of how I am.
Okay.
So the stuff that's in the movie that maybe some people are like, why would he do that or why wouldn't he? It's because that's how
that's who you are. Yeah. Okay. You're just really tempting danger at all costs.
There was I was at Ange's. She had a beach house in New Jersey, and there's like what do you call it in Jaws when it's in the pond? It's not a pond, but it was like
an inlet.
There could still be sharks. Yeah. There could still be sharks back there, and what looked like a fin went by, and I jumped in a kayak and tried to chase it. Although I still don't know if it was a shark or a floating piece of debris.
You're a crazy person.
Only around wild animals. Also, I'm actually a total scaredy cat. Like at the same time, like in those moments, like I went out to look for great white sharks with a friend that worked at Greenpeace with me, just kind of like swimming out by where all the seals are swimming, and it's a place that's known for juvenile great whites to congregate. And I swam out there, but as I was swimming out there, I was just like, what the fuck are you doing? I had the worst fear ever. But I kind of like, I love that. So one day I will probably get killed by an animal.
Okay.
Well, hopefully it's for a film at least.
Well, hopefully it's a great white.
That'll be the scariest, worst found footage no one wants to watch. Like, it's an unfinished movie where the director dies at the end of it. And you're like, wow, it looks so real.
This is so meta.
This podcast might get more views if that happens in like 5 years. So
I mean, realistically, if that happens, this podcast is going to get used as part of the footage
for
the
God.
movie.
Yeah, I'll sign off on that. I'll sign off on that.
Oh man, I mean,
oh my God, I hope that doesn't happen, because now I'm thinking about William Girdler, the director of Grizzly, and then he died in a helicopter crash. Like, oh, whatever. It's a horror podcast. I can be morbid.
So, back to the scary stuff of the film. You said you wanted to make it really scary. Like, did you go into it knowing what really scary beats you had to hit and, like, what kind of unique scares? Because there are a lot of unique scares in the film. Did you know all of those coming out? Or did it just, like, as you were getting into it, you're like, oh, this would be really scary. This would be really scary.
Probably a mix. Like, I had strong ideas for specific things from the get-go, but then the cool thing about making a movie by yourself with your friends and no crew or money is you can go out and film new things if you get new ideas. So the other thing is, you see some people already, they're like, this isn't scary. And then some people are saying it's terrifying. It's like, yeah, because fear is subjective and some things are going to not be scary to you, but they're scary to other people. So I just tried to film the kinds of things that usually give me chills in movies. And when I talk about fear, it's not like necessarily adrenaline or jump scares. For me, when I talk about a movie being scary, it's like chills, looking over my shoulder, like that deep, uncomfortable thing that I get from session 9, for example. But yeah, it was a mix.
I feel a lot about the Outwaters is it's very, you feel very anxious because it's hard to, one, orient yourself, but two, like, you don't necessarily understand, like, the reality you're in. So you don't really necessarily have a narrative to cling to be like, okay, well, A plus B equals C. Because, like, by the time we get to camera roll 3, the rules are out the window.
Stuff's happening. For me, one of the scariest things is swimming in the ocean at night. So I kind of wanted the second half to feel like that in some ways. Like just being out in total blackness and water, not knowing what's around you.
Yeah, that you have a death wish. I'm sorry to say it, but that does sound truly horrifying. I don't know that I would do it, and
It's scary.
I'm not surprised at all to hear that you have done it.
Shout out to Belmar, New Jersey, where I swim in the ocean at night sometimes.
You have a really great technique, though, in those scenes where it's completely black, where we're kind of, as the viewer, only given like a pinhole of sight, and it's so smart because a lot of horror fans, and I think just in general, it's just like the more you see of the monster or the more you see of what scares you, and the longer you see it, the less you're scared of it. Like if you use it too much, if it's too much of the screen, then it loses its effect. And I think the fact that we're only permitted such a small space for which to view the scares, it lets your imagination fill up 98% of the screen.
Oh, there's lots of mentioning of this tiny flashlight. It's actually like a huge flashlight. There is a small flashlight in the movie that I come across, but that's the actual flashlight that I'm using in the film is like a huge floodlight. It's just when you're in the desert,
It just
it
eats
looks
the light.
smaller. Yeah. So that just was one of those happy or unhappy accidents, depending on if you hate it or like it. But that's what it kind of looks like on my camera when you have a big flashlight but you're out in the middle of actual nowhere. When I first started shooting, I noticed it pretty quickly. So I was like, all right, this is what we're working with. I didn't have lighting equipment or want it or anything. So I just wanted, if this is what it looks like when you're filming with a huge flashlight in the middle of nowhere, then that's what it should be,
I don't know, man. Like that alone really sort of gets to me, and like I think there's plenty of examples of this throughout the whole movie, but like your use of darkness is great. It's no surprise to hear that you go swimming in the ocean in the middle of the night where you can't see anything, and you're
not often.
Not often, yeah.
Actually, the last time I had to go swimming at night in the ocean was for this movie to get some shots of someone covered in blood in the ocean, but it wasn't pitch black yet. It was just getting there.
I'm so happy to hear that this has a theatrical release, because that's how we saw it at the film festival at Panic Fest, and I think seeing this in the movie theater is a completely different experience than watching it at home.
Although it was still effective at home. We watched it last night and I had nightmares.
Oh yeah,
so.
I made sure to turn off all the fucking lights in the house. It's super
Gotta
creepy.
turn off the lights, get on the biggest screen possible, pretty loud. But I'm pretty excited about it being in theaters too.
Well, I bet.
Pretty exciting.
I think a lot of that comes down to the sound design, and you did the sound design on the film, right?
Yes.
It's fantastic, and I think that for me was the most effective thing about being in the theater, is that there's moments where it's very shrill. There's moments where you're not quite sure what sounds you're hearing. Maybe we'll get into spoilers for this because the sound design is a lot of the scares.
Initially, I was thinking, oh, also a bonus to shooting a found footage movie is I won't have to deal with sound design. As I was like, I'll just leave everything really raw. Once I started playing with it and realized that the possibilities are kind of endless with sound. It was also the first like sound heavy thing I've worked on since college. I had a sound class and did a found footage audio tape. And
Oh, no way.
Oh, fun.
yeah, but it's kind of one of those things. I could have kept working on the sound design for another few years because I was like getting ideas right up until I had to deliver the movie to Cinedigm. It's like, oh. So yeah. But I did the sound design in iMovie, if you can believe it.
Wow.
Wow. And was a lot of it sounds that you had recorded yourself, or are you taking them from libraries?
Libraries, sounds I recorded myself. And then there's a few sounds, like 3 different sounds that I got from Free Sound and contacted the people that had made them.
Like Kim had sort of alluded to, I think we're going to start getting into some spoiler questions. So if anybody watching this or listening to this has not seen the movie yet, we would highly recommend that you wait and save the rest of this for after seeing the movie. And I got to say, like, I think damn near everything that I've wanted to ask you is in the portion of the movie that we're not.
It's been
that we're
so
trying
hard.
to avoid.
It's been so hard forming questions because I'm like, things are weird.
Yeah.
Well, here's the part where people will probably be like, God, this guy's obnoxious, because I'll probably be like, oh, I can't answer that. But try me. So
at some point, there is a lightning storm in the movie, and
Is there? I'm sorry. I'll be obnoxious for you.
Is there a lightning storm?
I get the impression that the camera at some point stops, being like a thing that's documenting a nice time in the woods, and we're sort of
Less literal? Is that what you're...
Yeah, like it's almost like we are seeing what like your character Robbie, what his mind is seeing. It's almost like it's something that I've never seen in a found footage movie before, where you're going on this weird sort of almost psychedelic trip of the mind, like 2001: A Space Odyssey, but it's somehow caught on camera. What was the framework for putting that kind of stuff together? Because it's really fucking weird, and it works so goddamn well.
There was a very specific idea I had for the threat, and well, I could say that when you see the opening of the movie and it says that it's raw, I do follow that rule. So everything is being filmed. I'll say that. But to what you were saying, it's possible that things.
I think it's ambiguous.
It's possible that somehow the camera morphs in some way, or something's imprinted on the camera due to the nature of the vague threat.
The vague threat.
But about filming the vague threat, or at least those moments where the camera is doing kind of fantastical things. Technically, like, what was that like? Like, there's a sequence that's very, like, what was I calling it? Oh, like Inside Space Mountain. It looks so fucking cool.
I filmed that here.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, and there's no speeding up or slowing down of anything in the movie or effects added. So I think everything was in camera.
Wow. That's
amazing.
cool. That's awesome. Especially for some of the, like, really wild visuals.
Yeah. In the credits of the movie, it says that the special effects were done by you. Did you also do some of the sort of like appliances and prosthetics that you see in the end?
Yeah, I did all there was
Wow.
The only thing is there's a certain body part
It looks really good.
that I ordered and then muddied it up a little bit. But other than that, the other things I just made.
Wow.
Or I think pretty much everything I made.
Wow, that's incredible. Is this stuff that you had done before, or is it really just like, well, I'm
Out
going to
of
make this fucking
necessity,
movie?
like, I need this thing, I'm going to make it.
Yeah, I just kind of figured it. I mean, I looked stuff up, how to make this, how to make that, and then if something didn't look right, then I just made it again until it looked right. So Yeah.
This is amazing.
But I've been experimenting with fake blood since like I was 12 or something. So, and actually I was like, I'm going to make all my fake blood for this movie because I know how to do it real good. And after the first day of shooting, I was like, I can't make all this shit. Like, it's too much fake blood. So I started to order a specific kind of fake blood, which I don't think they sell anymore, actually, which I like.
Because it was dangerous?
It's because it attracted
I don't
bees.
know.
That's what I was going to ask. I wanted to know if the bees were attracted to the fake blood. Was that what the problem was?
No, it's because it was like over 100 degrees that day, and we were actually in the middle of nowhere, and me and Ange, we like to have Real Housewives style, like glamorous, like, oh, we're in the desert, so like let's make some drinks and pretend we're at a resort. And we were like pouring water on ourselves and like smoking cigarettes and drinking. And I think the bees wanted the water.
Oh shit.
Or they wanted in the tent for shade. They're like, let us in.
Yeah. They wanted the water because there isn't much water. That's my Jersey accent coming out. There isn't much water over there.
I know you want to be vague about the end of the movie, so I know I'm not going to get full definitive answers. It's like, I don't even know if I have any questions left at this point, or if I just want to say, like, I loved this part, and I loved this part, and holy shit, how did you do this? But,
You could, if I don't think I should answer, I won't, so you could ask.
That doesn't make for good audio, though. I want to ask about, was this particular scare, was the sound layered with screams that we hear earlier in the film, like things like that?
Okay, I think we could vaguely answer that question. Like,
you can just ask, yeah.
You have creatures that show up in the movie
that are great.
You have threats that show up in the movie that are great, that have very unique, shrill voices. Are you mixing any of the screams from the cast into the sounds of those creatures?
Sometimes, not all times, but sometimes.
Yeah.
I guess I should say, even though a lot of the specific sounds that wind up in the movie I got from libraries, almost none of them sound like they do originally. So a lot of it's, me mixing different original sounds and playing with different I don't know sound words, but playing with different aspects of sound within each thing. But yeah, some of this, there's some screams in there.
That was the most effective scare for me, I think, of all of the, and there's some great visual scares, but like of all of the stuff in the final act of the film, the screaming was what got me.
Yay.
The shrieking, yeah.
Just while we're in spoilers, you have a really chilling moment with your mother at the end of the movie, but she's also really sweet when you see her in the beginning and everything's totally not a horror movie yet. What was it like working with your mom?
So I've been making short films since I was 10, and she's been in a lot of them.
Aw.
It's very much like, all right, Rob, like, how long is this going to take? Like, don't get fake blood on my this or that. I've often gotten in trouble for getting fake blood on stuff in the house. When she came home and saw that I had put fake blood all over the bathtub, which isn't actually even in the movie anymore, she was upset. But it's very much like she's actually plays the lead role in my new movie that's coming out, and she's just so raw and amazing. So working with her, I always know that I'm going to get authenticity.
That's amazing. I love your mom.
She's real excited about it. But when it comes, it's funny because in my new movie, Tinsman Road, like she's pretty much a main character, if not the main character that's in front of the camera. And because it's like, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have errands to run, I have to work. It's like most of her scenes were crammed into like a couple days within like a couple hours, but she's really good at feeling real.
I love that you not only I love that you not only rope your mom into being in your films, but you're like, you're gonna star in this one.
Yeah. We had a lot of family stuff going on at the time that I was filming my next movie, and it was supposed to be my Aunt Keene in the lead role, and then just because of all this stuff that was going on, my aunt didn't have enough time to do it, so I was like, all right, Mom.
So do you, like, What part of the filmmaking process do you like the most? Like, do you like shooting it, or do you like tinkering
Editing.
with it? Yeah.
Editing.
Okay. That's not a surprise at all to hear.
Shooting it, it's like with the donkeys. I was like, it's always like, oh.
But then you see them and you're like, oh fuck, these are so good.
Yeah. I always have fun on the shoot, but there's a lot of stress with that, especially when I have like my friends out there, drag them out to the desert and then like forgot about something important, things like that. But I do love shooting. It's a lot of work and it just feels very, whatever the word, I don't know. I prefer editing.
Yeah, and are you the kind of guy who just like constantly tinkers with it? Like, are you even now, even though you've delivered it for the theaters, playing around with it no? Okay,
I can't. Like, I would be, but no.
There's no point.
I am the kind of person that tinkers for years.
Yeah, like I think bands like U2 are like constantly like remixing and re-recording tracks, and they're just
don't they like secretly like re-upload them? And
yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly. It's just like you go to listen to it, and it's just like a completely different song than what you heard, say, 2 years ago.
So I'll never do that, and I only want there to be one version of the movie. So there will never be a director's cut. This is the director's cut. Luckily, I have distributors that didn't want me to change anything.
That's good. That's great.
And I will never when E.T. came out and they like erased the the guns.
Yeah.
I will never do that.
I mean, the only time it was acceptable was when they changed Judi Dench's hands in Cats.
Oh, sure.
From Judi Dench's hands to cat hands.
Yeah. Once I delivered the movie, I was like, all right, it's done. But it was a really like anxiety inducing moment for me. I'm like, oh God, this is the movie. Like, I can't change it now. Like you know what I mean? That's
gotta be weird. But
it was also my first time ever having like a deadline. Like, oh, you have to deliver the movie. Like, it's in your, there's like contracts and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but I would be tinkering with it today if it wasn't, what do you call it, acquired for distribution.
Yeah. Is that kind of how you'd hope to continue making the rest of your movies? Like, obviously, like if a project, you've got like a really ambitious idea that you can't do everything yourself, that's going to have to change. But like, is that how you'd kind of like hope to do it, that you handle everything?
Yeah. I mean, it would be great to work with an editor because all my friends were in a way like editors, and it would be, but I can't imagine not like sitting there and working on that. Like, that's my favorite part. Mm-hmm. It's so important. And so, but it would be cool to to work with different editors in the future, and that would bring new ideas to anything that I'm working on. I will say that Tinsman Road, I wrote a lot more of this, the upcoming one. I wrote not the dialogue, but I wrote the scenes out, like what would happen. And that did make editing a lot less time consuming.
Because you have like a roadmap for it.
Yeah, I plan on writing more so that I don't have to sit at this desk for 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. But yeah.
And are you going to stay in like the found footage space? Do you want to stay there?
No. Tinsman Road's found footage, but it's totally different. I shot it on mini DV. It's a straightforward story, so it's not confusing, and it's hopefully artful, but it's not a wild, inventive, crazy movie. I probably want to do one more found footage movie at some point. But no, I want to make dramas and musicals and horror movies, and I have all different kinds of things I want to make. So the found footage thing I've explored now in 2 ways for years of my life. I want to make one more at some point because there's a blue tent in OUTWATERS and a red tent in Tinsman Road. So I want to make one with a yellow tent to get those.
A trilogy.
The tent trilogy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's my 3 colors trilogy, but like found footage.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm excited to see anything that you come up with in the future. But you seem to have a talent for sound design, so I hope that's something you continue to do, or at least find somebody that's at least as good as you to do the rest of your movies. Because that's, I think, what really, really got into my bones in this one.
Are you going to watch my gay musical?
Of course I'm going to watch your gay musical.
Cool. Is it going to be at least a little scary? Or?
No. No, I just... a lot of the songs in the OUTWATERS are mine or my friends, and I do like songwriting, but I haven't it's never been something that was a goal of mine. So, like, I don't want to be a singer or anything, but it's interesting because I haven't explored it that much. So I do want to do a musical where I write a lot of the songs for it. So different kind of sound, but yeah.
That's great. So, and where can people see the Outwaters?
Where can they see it? Oh, it'll be in theaters February 9th. It looks like all over the country.
Rad.
I believe it'll be in, I just found out that it's playing in my hometown theater where I saw the original Blair Witch Project for the first time.
No,
so
That's
shit.
amazing.
in Manville, New Jersey. So
Are
if
you
it's
going to go
playing
back?
there,
Are you going to go see it?
I will probably not see it there, but I will be in New York for a lot of the opening week, or the week that it's out. I'll be in New York most of that week. It'll probably, I just found out that it's going to play in Hawaii, so it's probably going to be most places.
Cool. That's rad.
Like a theater somewhere drivable for most people.
And do you have a Blu-ray release date yet?
No release date on the Blu-ray, but it's definitely happening. I would never make a deal without the promise of a Blu-ray release because I'm a physical media guy. So it's coming out in theaters February 9th, and then shortly after it'll be on Screenbox and probably all the other things where you could like rent it or buy it. But I don't have a date for that yet. Just not too long after the theatrical release. Well,
Robbie, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today, man. We like to close out every interview by asking one question.
Shit. I forgot. Think of them. Go ahead. I'll think of them.
That's
I'll
okay.
Think of them on the spot.
What's your dream drive-in double feature? If you could play any two movies at a drive-in, what would you play?
And you can pick movies that you would recommend with the Outwaters, or you could just be completely selfish and any two movies that you'd just like to see, a double feature of.
Yeah, what two gay musicals do you want to play at the drive-in?
Shit. Oh, man. This is an important question. And I meant to think of it, and I didn't. I'll just say Jaws 2.
Oh, yeah.
And Orca.
That's a cool
That's a great double feature.
I got to see Jaws 2 even though Jaws is the better film, Jaws 2 is like my favorite movie when I was little because I couldn't distinguish I think Jaws 2 is a great movie, but I couldn't distinguish that they were two different movies, so I just watched Jaws 2 over and over. Okay. I got to see it for the first time on film at the New Beverly, so I would like to see that again alongside Orca, which has one of my favorite scores ever.
Oh.
And I wanted the double feature to be at the New Beverly where I'm going to see Gummo in a couple hours.
Yay!
Honestly, that sounds like a double bill that's probably going to end up playing at some point, maybe this summer, who knows?
And it explains your affinity for night swimming in the ocean and getting near animals that might eat you.
I do like a sea creature.
Well, Robbie, thanks again, man. We really appreciate it. It's been a blast talking with you.
Thanks.
Thank you again to Robbie Banfitch for taking the time to talk to us and answer all of our silly, stupid questions. Like you just heard him say, the Outwaters is hitting theaters February 9th. It will at some point
just
afterward.
in time for Valentine's Day.
Oh, what a romantic trip to the movie theater.
Oh my God, if it's playing near us, you know what we're doing for Valentine's Day.
That's a great idea. We should do that. And then the next day we can go out and see Blood and Honey. I think they're doing a one-day event, February 15th. The new Winnie the Pooh horror movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Not 100% sure if it's coming to Canada, but I'll keep an eye out. I've been talking with some people in Discord about it. Either way, let us know what you thought of the Outwaters over on Twitter at NOFS Podcast or in that Discord at nofspodcast.com/Discord.
When it comes out, of course.
When it comes out, yeah.
Until next time, I'm Kim.
I'm John.
Stay creepy.
It appears you made it out alive, but we'll get you next time. Help us to grow the horde. Leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you subscribe. More terror can be found lurking on our website, nofspodcast.com. Until next time, stay creepy, fiends.